Y'all listening to first video of the day. We got the ImDontai Controversy Says a lot about music right now. This is by No Labels Necessary. Y'all, as y'all know, newer content creator that we've been checking out. Like his video, I like the one video we did. So I'm hoping these other ones gonna match up, which they should. But let's go.
Bitch, I'm the GOAT of this shit. It's gonna keep happening, okay? I'm very humble, but at this point, when people are talking like this, calling me a loser and a nerd and nobody cares about what he gotta say, bitch, I'm the GOAT of this shit. I am the GOAT of this shit. When an album drops, niggas search up ImDontai before they type the title of that album. Shut your fucking mouth, okay? And you will respect me, you little hooligans. You will respect me, okay? Because I guaranteed if I asked you what album...
I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never watched any of his album reviews personally.
Or what artist I should react to, you will gracefully, with quickness, at top Mach speed, type your favorite artist seeking my reaction to it. Clock that T.
Recently, streamer ImDontai found himself in the middle of a controversy after one of his Song Wars streams. Some artists felt disrespected and felt like ImDontai's comments were a signal that he was no longer in touch with the current underground music scene. And the internet really was split over his decision. Some fans rallied online to defend him, while others argued that creators like ImDontai have become gatekeepers and they had too much influence over the music that people discovered. Now, whether ImDontai was right or wrong isn't what really interested me about this story, because if I've learned one thing, is that the relationship between the music industry and gatekeepers has always been complicated. Artists hate being kept out and feeling like they may be forced away from a potential audience just because one person or a group of people doesn't like their music. And fans hate feeling like someone else gets to decide what type of music they should like. Meanwhile, the people or the entities that are being called gatekeepers will argue that they're just trying to help people discover quality music. And at this point, it feels like everybody hates gatekeepers until they need one. And if you're a part of 40% of artists subscribed to this channel, then just know that if your opinion on music ever becomes popular, then people are going to eventually start calling you a gatekeeper too. But after looking into this ImDontai controversy, I don't know,
that's a little weird to me, because I just feel like, I'm saying you only really are, from what I ever see him, any of his like reaction stuff that may come across my timeline, I always just see him do like the most popular stuff. So I don't see how you gatekeeping for real if you only react to the most popular stuff in the industry that people's gonna listen to anyway.
You think that artists hate gatekeepers or really feel like they shouldn't exist? I think they disagree about what a gatekeeper actually is. Let me explain.
It's so easy to become a podcaster with Riverside. First, go to Riverside and open an account.
No.
But before I do, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because apparently if enough people on the internet like your opinion, then the internet promotes you to a gatekeeper. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I'm trying to get that title. So make sure you do your part and hit that button. Now let's get back into the video. Now, I think the most interesting part of this whole situation wasn't even the controversy itself. And it was really what started happening afterwards and the discourse that it started within the underground music community. Because I started to see people call ImDontai out of touch. They were saying that he no longer represented the voice of the underground. And I started to see the word gatekeeper being thrown around over and over and over again. Now, the issue is nobody really seemed to be saying the same thing. Some people thought that ImDontai was abusing his influence, while others felt like he was just a guy giving his opinion. And I think it started this really interesting dialogue within upcoming artists.
Well,
about whether or not music even needs gatekeepers.
Does he have that much influence in the music industry? I guess I don't pay attention to him that much for me to know.
Some artists will argue that we actually do need gatekeepers, and they're a very important part of the music industry ecosystem. While other artists will argue that gatekeepers are actually ruining music and ruining the discovery process for a potential fan. And that whole discourse made me stop and ask, what even is a gatekeeper? Because depending on who you talk to in the music industry, you'll get completely different answers.
Do you think gatekeeping in the industry is real? I think gatekeeping is real. I think gatekeeping needs to come back. I think the reason why the industry sucks is because nobody's gatekeeping. Listen, bring it up. I'm gonna ask you a question. When you put out your record, it was work. You had to get the DJs. You had to go outside. No, you got to perform in front of people. It's so much work that goes into what we did. Now, look at today. Somebody on Afghanistan right now can upload a song on Spotify and we can hear it today. I think that we have to allow gatekeeping to come back because we have to have someone to say, you're good, you. And right now, nobody's saying that. So we don't even know who's real and who's fake now.
So I think that the way that Ray Daniels describes gatekeeping is the way that a lot of people in the music industry see it. They don't necessarily see it as censorship, but as quality control. I mean, really think about what he said, because he's right in the aspect that almost every single form of entertainment has some type of gatekeeping involved. Not every guy that can hoop on the playground makes it to the NBA. Every single actor in the audition doesn't make it past the casting director. And even books have editors. Almost every single major industry has people that decide who gets opportunities, who gets recognition, who gets distribution, and who gets...
That was the radio, right? Like at one point, that was supposed to be the radio that did that. Now we don't have... The radio really doesn't play a big role in the music industry. Well, at least as much of a role as it used to play in the music industry. So I think that's... Definitely got a point to an extent, but I don't know.
Even play the game. And Ray's argument is music shouldn't be any different. And I also want you guys to pay really close attention to who he started to describe when he talked about gatekeepers. He didn't talk about some exec or A&R at a label. He started off by talking about a very simple component of most music artists' discovery, and that's the DJ. So you can already start to see how different parts of the industry or people who play different roles within the artist discovery process get the title at one point or another. And what's really interesting is that if you could talk to people from different sectors of the music industry who have been doing...
That is real, because DJs breaking records used to be a big thing. Huge thing. Like, that used to be a big industry. Nowadays, I don't think DJs... I think TikTok breaks records. I don't think DJs break records anymore.
Whatever they do for however long they've been doing it, you'll start to see that a lot of people feel exactly how Ray feels.
But that's why in hip-hop there has always been gatekeepers, because some of y'all don't deserve a fucking opinion. Because you haven't been doing this professionally, consuming, playing, and critiquing hip-hop as your life. You're just a fan. And we love you. You're just a consumer. You're a customer, as we call them. That's why sometimes your opinion, customer, doesn't fucking count, because you don't fucking do this for real.
So notice that Ray Daniels and Ebro have two things in common when it comes to their opinion on gatekeeping. One is that they believe that the professionals and the people that have worked with...
I feel like Ebro bro, honestly, G, I understand, and especially at an older stage of hip-hop, but I just felt like he played just as big of a role as making them young niggas be successful as he... And please do not take this and run with it, Ebro. Don't. Because I'm not saying this to help you out whatsoever. But the way that you acted toward them niggas is what they showed you, like, we don't give a fuck what you say. And I think that's what the issue was. Is like, how are y'all going to try to benefit from having these young niggas show up to y'all platforms, try to embarrass them, make fun of them, make it seem like they ain't worthy of being there, but yet you obtain all of these clips and you clip farming basically. And to him, he was probably like, no, that's really how I felt. That's cool. But why'd you have them niggas up there then? If you sold hip hop and this, well, shit, that's what people want to see. But ain't that the radio show you the host of? Couldn't you have said, no, I don't want to do this? But you ain't got that type of pull, right? So you saying all of this stuff to make it seem like you have had this extensive career in critiquing hip-hop, which you've had, but then once it came down to your platform and you helping break new hip-hop artists, you just followed the status quo. That seems like you a sellout, bro.
Music in some capacity are really the ones who deserve a voice at who gets next up. And two, neither one of them is really talking about power. They're talking about filtering and curating. Basically having a system to separate potential stars from the noise and being able to make decisions around that. Now, I'll be real with y'all. At first, I was kind of like, damn, his opinion kind of applies to ImDontai. But then I was like, nah, ImDontai's been reacting to music professionally for 10 years at this point, so he still fits the bill. And the more I thought about what Ebro ago said, the more I actually started to agree with him. Because when you really think about it, gatekeepers have always been around throughout music industry history. Radio programmers, magazine editors, record labels, A&Rs, DJs, promoters, even venue owners. And for decades, those people largely decided who even made it to the masses. And this next music exec explains that history perfectly.
For a long time, the music business revolved around a very small group of gatekeepers who would decide what music can go out to the world. Today, we are seeing a very different model. Artists today are building careers. They are owning their music. Many times when you would sign those record label deals, you would give up ownership. It's all about building the direct relationships with fans. Artists are building a much different, deeper understanding of both the creative and business side, which is kind of making them a little bit dangerous because when they sit across tables to negotiate, they know much more.
And that clip is important because it establishes a point that I really want younger artists to understand. The internet didn't invent gatekeepers, and in fact, they've always been here and they've always existed in some capacity. In fact, one of the biggest promises of the internet is that it will help to eliminate gatekeepers. Artists were told that they wouldn't need labels anymore and anyone could upload a...
And all of that stuff is happening. See, this the issue I got with it is saying like we need more gatekeepers. Is literally just saying like the freedom that the artists have is too detrimental to us. It's too detrimental to the world. And not only that, it's like in the NBA where they've gotten, you know, free agency and the ability to move around and do as they please, and the money is there. So it's like, bro, I don't care. I'm making $200 million in the next 3 years. I'm making $400 million in the next 5 years. I don't give a fuck. So I think that's a problem, and that's a balance where it's like, okay, we want more gatekeeping now, but the gatekeeping is literally what made artists and people not receive the royalties and the benefits that they should have been receiving either.
And fans would discover their music directly, and any artist could build an audience. You guys were told that no one would need permission and that you could go out there and build this on your own terms, or at least that was the dream. But then something happened that I don't think anybody expected. Instead of eliminating gatekeepers like the promise that was made, it started to accidentally create new ones and a different type of gatekeeper. And I don't think that anyone illustrates this concept better than the curator Teresa. Check this clip out.
This video is to go over my goals and purposes when I'm reviewing super small artists like under 5,000, under 2,000, maybe even under 100 monthly listeners. Because a couple years ago, I was trying to be an independent artist on TikTok, and I was like, what am I doing? I don't even know if I sound good or not. I would love some feedback. Then I took a whole 2-year break from the internet. When I came back, I was like, nah, I'm gonna build a platform so I can shed light on other super small artists, because while I may not be the talent, I know that a lot of other people probably are, and I have the ability to yap and get them attention.
Now, if you don't know who Teresa is, she's a rising personality and curator within the underground hip hop scene. And a lot of younger fans and fans of that style of music really do look up.
See, I'm not trying to be rude. We talk about gatekeeping, and then that's the person that you pull up on the screen. That be my problem. That be my motherfucking problem right there. Like, Jesus Christ.
To her for her music opinion. And the reason I love this clip is because Teresa never says I wanted to be a gatekeeper or I want to have some kind of power and influence within the music industry. But instead, she
literally did say that. She said that I have the ability to talk and influence people to listen to smaller artists. That's her saying that she wanted to have influence.
Wanted to help smaller artists get discovered, and that became the main driving force on why she started to review music. And in her journey, people started to trust her taste, and people started to trust her curation. And as her audience grew, more artists started to reach out, more artists wanted to submit to be on her platform, and before she knew it, she had influence in a side of the music scene. And again, none of this came because she was chasing power. It came because the people decided, hey, we like what you have to say, and we want you to stick around. So basically, people voluntarily gave power to her, which made me realize something. I don't think that most of the new internet gatekeepers actually planned on becoming gatekeepers. I
don't think most people plan on becoming gatekeepers, bro. I feel like that's a disingenuous way of looking at it and saying, like, in the internet era, they not really trying to be gatekeepers. They just want to, bro. At a certain point, I'm pretty sure P Diddy just wanted to make music, but that nigga turned into a fucking scumbag. It's not about what you started off doing. It's about how you finish. Pause. Especially
What do you mean by that?
Diddy crazy ass.
They were like most people and just fans of music who decided to share their opinion and share what they thought about upcoming artists, and then they accidentally became a gatekeeper. And it's actually really simple on how the internet takes these everyday consumers and everyday fans and accidentally turns them into gatekeepers. Because the moment enough artists decide your attention could change my career, then your opinion becomes valuable. And valuable attention eventually becomes limited, which started to make me wonder if people like Teresa and so many of the music curators and reactioners and the people that are deemed gatekeepers by a lot of upcoming artists never really decided to be a gatekeeper, then how could we ever truly stop gatekeeping when the internet keeps accidentally creating so many? So what actually creates a gatekeeper? And at first, I thought the answer was your job, right? I thought it was as simple as that. Someone works at a record label, or they become an A&R, or they write for a major publication, or they're a publicist, or they're a marketer. Basically, having a position inside of the music industry that gives you the power to decide who gets opportunities. And then I thought maybe it's building an audience. And the bigger your audience becomes, the more control you have over deciding the direction of music careers. And in return, the more of a gatekeeper that you become. But after seeing Teresa's story and thinking about ImDontai's story, I don't think that influence is actually the cause. It's the consequence. Because influence doesn't create gatekeepers. Scarcity does. I mean, really think about it. If ImDontai only had 5 artists a week sending him music to review, then nobody would call him a gatekeeper. He could listen to everything, he could respond to everybody, he could help every single artist that...
Okay, so he does, okay. I never, again, and this is no shade to him, I obviously have seen ImDontai on the internet multiple times, different places. I've seen clips of him doing reactions and reviews. I've just never sat down and watched any of his content personally. You know, that's me, that's not him. But I didn't know that he did underground artists. I thought he was mainly kind of like how Kai do, where they do like the bigger artists or the bigger CDs that are coming out.
Wanted to help. The problem starts when 5 submissions become 50, and 50 become 500, and 500 become 5,000. And the pressure and the stress from these rising submissions is often what causes these influencers to start to create systems and boundaries around how they take artist submissions. And I don't think it's a coincidence that when these boundaries start to show up, it's usually when these people start to get the title of being a gatekeeper.
I got over 4,400 submissions for my South by Southwest show. There's no shot that I'm gonna get through 4,000 submissions in time for South by Southwest. So I closed submissions.
So this is the clip that started to change my perspective more than any other clips that I've shown you guys in this video. Because at this point, I didn't even think that it was gatekeeping anymore. It just became math. I mean, think about it. Kato isn't saying I don't want to listen to your music. He's saying that I physically can't get through all of these submissions I have. I mean, bro said he had over 4,000 submissions. So if we assume that every song is at least 3 minutes long, then that's like 200 hours worth of music to go through. And that's before he sleeps, that's before he eats, runs his business, or even gets time to just put the showcase together. Even if Kato wanted to give every single one of those artists an opportunity, he simply doesn't have the time to do it, which means that somebody has to get filtered out. And that's not because they're not good enough. That's not.
You know how they start by filtering out people? They start filtering out people by how many followers you have, how many subscribers you have, how many quote unquote fans you have. That's the craziest part about it.
Because they're not.
And then people wonder why it's not music related no more. It's like, because if you got to filter somebody out, you gonna filter the people out with the lowest fan bases. Sometimes those are the best artists that's submitted to you. That's just the unfortunate fact of it.
A talented artist, but because attention is limited. And honestly, the bigger the music industry gets, the bigger of a problem this becomes. Because every day, more music gets uploaded and more artists start to compete for attention. And more of these creators and these gatekeepers get more artists who are trying to get them to put them on in some type of way. Which means that the demand for attention keeps growing, but the supply doesn't grow with it. Even the best curator and DJ and manager and A&R and label exec only gets 24 hours in a day. And I think that's the part of the gatekeeping conversation that a lot of artists overlook. I mean, for years, whenever artists would talk about gatekeepers, they were usually talking about someone that has some kind of power within the music industry. But I think someone like ImDontai or Kato represent a new type of gatekeeper, and that's someone who isn't making a power decision, they're just making a taste decision and a time decision. Someone like Kato isn't necessarily deciding who deserves an opportunity, he's deciding what do I have time to pay attention to. And as painful as it might feel to an artist and their ego and the work that they put into their music, those just aren't the same thing. Which made me realize something. A lot of artists treat gatekeepers like they're doing the same job when in reality they're not. ImDontai was talking about taste. Ray Daniels was talking about quality control. Teresa was talking about discovery, and Kato was talking about capacity. 4 completely different people with 4 completely different roles. But somehow all of them have been called gatekeepers by some artists out there. And
yeah, because that doesn't make sense. Everybody has a role to play. So some people, their roles isn't to be, again, if you're a record exec, you're not going to be out here breaking records on the internet or DJing. Like, that's not how it works. But you can still keep a nigga from signing a contract. But yeah, if you are a DJ, you can promote a nigga as much as you want to because you like his music. That doesn't mean that he's going to get a record deal. So that's the point. Like, there's no difference. It's just the people have changed. It went from being execs, DJs, now it became influencers and influencers.
honestly, I think that's why the gatekeeper debate gets confusing and really never ends. Because artists will keep arguing over the same word while describing completely different experiences, which made me realize something else. If scarcity creates gatekeepers, then every time the industry creates a new bottleneck, doesn't that create a new gatekeeper too? Because artists aren't just competing for people's attention anymore. They're competing to get through the systems that decide where attention goes. And I think that's where the biggest gatekeeper and
again, that's not a new concept. It's new how it's getting done, but that's not a new concept. That's the same way that the music industry has always worked.
Music enters the conversation. Congratulations, you've officially made it about halfway through the video, which means that you've probably spent more time today thinking about gatekeepers than most artists spend thinking about their next release strategy. And one thing this episode has made me realize is that attention is one of the most valuable resources in music. And the artists who are consistently getting discovered aren't always the artists who are making the best music. They're usually the artists that have systems in place that help them get in front of the right people. And that's exactly why we build placement. Now, after spending the last 7 years marketing artists, I started to realize you're an artist, you'll receive curated opportunities that you can approve and start working. Video to start your free 7-day trial. Now let's get back into the video. So if every bottleneck creates a new gatekeeper, then who decides where attention goes today? Because if you ask most artists, they'll probably point at the labels or at reaction channels or at playlists. But the more I thought about it, the more I started to realize that all of those things have one thing in common. They're all trying to satisfy one gatekeeper, the algorithm.
You're never gonna be the biggest gatekeeper in the music business because it's not a person, it's the algorithm. A lot of people talk about how the music industry has been completely democratized. A lot of the human gatekeepers that once existed no longer move the needle or are no longer necessary to move the needle. Whether that's a major record label deal, late night show performances, press, etc. All these people combined led to a success.
You would do a late night show performance and I won't even know. I've never watched late night TV a day in my life.
Artist career at one point, but now that stuff is not necessary. In many ways, that's a beautiful thing. But it's kind of like the devil you know versus the devil you don't kind of thing. At least with human gatekeepers, you knew what their tastes were, what their biases were, what they were looking for. You might actually be able to get a meeting or a chance with them someday. But with an algorithm, you have no insight into anything about it, and it changes when you can't expect it.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 40.
So I think that Kristen from Billboard says something that completely changes this conversation. And honestly, it's something that should make artists today feel more grateful for the gatekeepers they can see. Because the generation of artists before you had all human gatekeepers, and the artists back then knew exactly who they were. They knew about radio programmers, they knew about magazine editors, they knew about the venue owners. If they wanted their music to spread, they knew exactly what person they had to convince. But today it's different because the first audience you might have to convince might not even be human. I mean, really think about how you discover music or how a lot of people discover music today. TikTok decides what videos you see. Spotify decides what song pops up next in your radio playlist. YouTube recommends videos. Instagram decides what makes it to your For You page. Even if your best friend, your dog, your homie uploads a song today, there's no guarantee that you will see it. Because before your music even reaches people, it usually has to get through an algorithm first. And honestly, that's kind of crazy when you think about it. For years, artists were trying to impress A&Rs and label execs and DJs, but today's artists are trying to impress brands, influencers, and engagement metrics. And that last one is really the biggest one, because the biggest gatekeeper in the music industry today isn't even a person that you can convince. And the craziest part is, I don't think that most artists even think of the algorithm as gatekeeper, because unlike the radio, you can't.
Nigga, please. I can't. Being around as many artists as I'm around regularly, that's the only thing that we talk about sometimes, is how much the algorithm and how you gotta feed into the algorithm. Shout out Cloner, Ozzy, and Johnny Germani. They got a song called Algorithm out now. Go tap into it. But man, we all know that that's part of the game. Like, it's certain people who just do shit just so that they can get into the algorithm. Look at me, I'm doing this. I'm a musician. Algorithm.
Call them. And unlike those A&Rs, you can't just bump into them at an underground showcase and network with them. And unlike ImDontai, you can't just email them or DM them and pitch them. The algorithm is invisible, but it influences what millions of people discover every single day. Which brings me back to a point I made at the top of the video. The internet promised you a lack of gatekeepers, but instead it created entirely new beasts. And the cherry on top is that even with all of the new types of gatekeepers, even with all of the hurdles that you guys have to face, it still never got rid of traditional gatekeepers.
You can't get to that point without a label. You can't get to that Drake level, that Young Boy level. You're not gonna get there without a big machine behind you that's gonna put you on these playlists. These labels got a whole.
But that's the thing. It's like, I think people need to stop trying to get to that level. Don't get me wrong, bro. My whole life, I thought, like, man, I can be the biggest. And you want to be the biggest artist in the world. Like, don't not shoot for that. But be okay with where you at, man. Like, it's too many people looking at other people wanting more. It's like, I look at other people and I want more. People who I look at other people bigger than them, pause, and want more. People who in the industry making money look at other people making more money or got more popularity than them and want more. And it's just like, when do it stop? When do it stop becoming a rat race and you just become content with who you are as an artist and love making music and putting it out to your fan base, no matter how big or small that fan base is?
Building them up is just gonna work your song.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't tell me an independent artist right now that's on the charts, that's on top 40 right now.
I see what you're saying.
Now, I think that DDG brings us back down to earth, because there is this idea online that artists can just upload a song, go viral, and build these massive independent careers all by themselves. And while that is true to some extent, the reality is that labels still hold a lot of power. And it's also what confuses me when I see artists beefing with curators or beefing with reactioners or these kind of independent new age gatekeepers, because you guys have bigger problems to deal with. And these people are really your allies in conquering the internet and having an advantage over that side of the industry. Because the internet didn't erase the advantages that labels have, it just gave artists a different way to compete. And to be real, it is an interesting predicament for artists to be in, because the internet didn't erase old gatekeepers and it added new ones. And I think that's something that artists don't think about, even the ones that do have relationships with these quote unquote.
He do artist development, so I don't want to, but I'm just like, gee, maybe it's because I'm around older artists, but that's all we think about. That's all we talk about most of the time. Is these exact things that he talking about right now.
Internet gatekeepers is that labels have relationships with them too. The labels also are trying to understand the algorithm. They also reach out to the curators. They find people to help them get in contact with the reactioners. Labels have found themselves navigating the same system of new age gatekeeping that a lot of artists are currently trying to figure out. And thinking through this finally made something click for me. If Ray, Teresa, Kato, DDG, and ImDontai are all talking about gatekeepers, why does it feel like they're all describing completely different things? And I think think I finally figured it out. I don't think that people and even artists really disagree or really disapprove of gatekeeping. I think they disagree about the definition of it and which part of the definition affects them personally at some point in their artist career. Because think about it again. ImDontai was talking about taste. Ray Daniels was talking about quality control. Teresa was talking about discovery. Kato was talking about capacity. Kristen was talking about the algorithm. And DDG was talking about the label infrastructure and industry access. All completely different people with completely different roles that an artist might get turned down from at some point in their career. So while yes, an artist could argue that all of those things are gatekeepers, we have to at least agree that they're not the same type of gatekeepers, right? And after looking into all of this,
that's semantics. That's semantics, bro. Like, I get what you're trying to say, but it's semantics. Gatekeeping is gatekeeping no matter how you do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people have fences, some people have fortresses. It doesn't matter. It's still a gate keeping you the fuck out.
That a gatekeeper is actually much simpler than we've all made it be. A gatekeeper is any person, any platform, or any system that decides who gets attention. And I think that if more artists started to look at gatekeeping that way, then more artists would take it less personally when one of these levels of gatekeeping personally affects their career or what they feel like is their career growth. Because as much as it might hurt for that curator to tell you that they don't like your music, or for that promoter to tell you that you can't be on the show, or for that A&R to tell you that they can't take a meeting, these people's roles are very important inside of the music industry. And I think what makes it so hard for artists to accept this is something that I said at the top of the video. The internet promised you guys the elimination of gatekeepers, and for a long time it really did feel like you didn't need them. You could post your music, you could post on TikTok, you could go straight to the people and build an audience around yourself. But if you keep building long enough, then eventually you will hit one of those walls. And in my personal opinion, the new age style of gatekeeping is much easier to navigate than the old school style of gatekeeping. Because back then there may have only been one radio programmer or one guy working at MTV. But today, because the internet has created millions of micro gatekeepers, you can always find a different way to
Micro gatekeeper is crazy. That is crazy.
navigate and find someone that does like you and can help you move on to the next level. You don't have to take every single opinion personally, because there are so many opinions out there. And if your music really is good, then eventually one of those opinions will vouch for you. So I think that the real lesson for artists isn't how do we eliminate gatekeepers. I think it's which gatekeepers actually matter for my career, and how can I find ones within those positions that actually support me. Because to be real, I don't think we'll ever see a version of the music industry that doesn't have some type of a gatekeeper. And I also don't think that attention will ever become unlimited. Someone or somebody or something will always decide where attention gets directed. And if you can learn to cope with that, if you can learn to strategize within it, if you can learn to not take it personally and feel like it's going to bring your career down, then you will be able to navigate the music industry better than 99% of music artists. And if you enjoy these kind of deep dives into how the music industry works, consider becoming a channel member today. On that side, we do exclusive discussions, behind the scenes conversations, and members get early access to select content. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, then hit that join button below this video. But guys, I want to know what you think. Do you think that the music industry could genuinely survive without gatekeepers? Or do we need people and systems and entities that decide what gets attention? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Other than that, if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share this with an artist that needs a little bit of gain today. My name is Corey, and I'll see y'all next time.
Yeah, man, I'm saying, do the game need gatekeepers? No. I would say no, probably not. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be those people who are in position to either help or hurt you in one way or another. So I don't think that that's even a prevalent question. You're never going to get away from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit, we done all seen the Hunger Games. It was gatekeepers in that shit, man. Like, it don't matter what you do, it's always going to be somebody there who either going to hurt you or help you. So you can't look at it like, do you need them or not need them or that. It's, as you said, you got to find out who will help you, who is going to be there to make your career successful, and what makes sense for your career. Because a lot of people want to get into rooms that they don't even need to be in, to be quite frank with you. Like, why are you a pop star trying to go hang out with Joe Budden? You don't need to do that. Joe Budden ain't even gonna let you come on to his show. Why would you even want to do that? But, you know, shout out to him. Another dope ass video.